Hello, good evening, and welcome to Sunday night's best kept secret. That is Monday night breakdown. Daniel Ratledge and Dave Forrester with you. We will be back for Sunday next week, I'm sure, to look back over all the action in the British Basketball League this week. A mixed bag, I think it's fair to say. Let's go back to Friday night, where the London Lions were beaten by the Glasgow Rocks 92 to 100. They were without coach Veer. Nick Lowry was taking over in his absence. They had Ryan Martin coming off the bench. They had Isaiah Reese back, first play of the game. Reese to Kelly on an alley-oop. I'm sure Kelly was pleased to see Reese back.
Yeah, the world was all right again, wasn't it? You know, it was like ooh, rewinding time 3 months. Yeah, the whole thing just there seemed to be obviously they're in a tremendous amount of kind of difference at the moment. Everything is changing all the time. You know, the best example, bless him, is, you know, after, you know, they lost the final, obviously, and we pointed out that Ryan Martin's been struggling since he got back. He hasn't played for 3 years, etc. And they put a tweet out on Monday morning saying he's on fire, and then the next game he's not starting.
Yeah.
You know, and so, you know, the players are confused. Well, yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm confused. You know, is he or isn't he or what? And then obviously the second coach isn't there, so James isn't there. And Nick is the coach, but he didn't stand up that much. And to be honest, if I was watching the game, I couldn't figure out whether it was him or Youngblood who was actually on the sheet.
Well, I was watching it, and it was only really in the timeouts that I worked out.
Yeah,
and then he did stand up a little bit, I think, towards the end as well.
But it's very difficult, you know, because you've been in a different role the whole year, and then you step, you know, and the players are, some of them are close to checking out, not all of them, but some of them are close to checking out, you know, so you can't go and stand up and be the big guy and try and take over and point your finger and do everything like that, because players were just staring and just, what? You know what? So you've got to be quite subtle about it. I thought, to be honest, there wasn't much defense in this game.
No.
And I thought, while London got out early, I thought that was because Glasgow missed shots and missed layups, and you know, and you thought that that would sustain London, but I think it did nothing much more than perhaps persuade London that they were going to win easily.
Yeah. Well, it looked like that, because you've obviously got Reese, Dirk, Justin hitting threes. It's out to 25-16. Everything looking comfortable. Glasgow looking like Glasgow on the road, not making shots on their way to another defeat. They're 47-28 down. But that last 9 points of the first half, I think that gave the Rocks belief, because suddenly they were only down 10 at half time.
I thought if I actually had a little note in my head that, you know, it wasn't where the game was decided, but it was where the game became a game. You know, because obviously 9-0 the other way, it's 25, and you know, and off you go. And I wasn't that sure about the lineup that London had in at the end. I thought they were just trying to get to half time with that lineup. And to be honest, I've watched so many games since I can't remember who was in that lineup. But it wasn't the lineup that had been overly effective throughout the game, and that did give Glasgow a little foothold. Because you have to remember, they scored 28 points in 17 minutes, and then they scored 72 in 23.
Yeah.
You know, so they got some rhythm out of that, and you know, it's that moment where you know, we always talk about big moments where you have to stamp on the throat. You know, and you work really hard for a 17, 18 point lead, 19 point lead, and then you blow it in 2.5 minutes before a break. That's a problem, because your players think that you can still, that's not a problem, we'll do it again. The opposition players also think, hang on a minute, you know, we've got to run in this game. You know, and then all you need is a little bit of extra motivation, and that turned up about halfway through the third quarter.
Well, exactly. Let's go to that, because 5.5 minutes to go. Jordan Harris is going for a dunk. Kajini fouls him, gets up, shakes his hand. Seems to be nothing there, and then Harris, as he's walking back, says something to Isaiah Reese. Reese, he tossed the ball at his head, basically, gently. It was a gentle toss, but it was still about a foot. Yeah, it was still egregious. So 2 technicals are called, which seems fair enough from where I was sat. But Harris doesn't leave it alone, and that, you actually see Keith Williams, the referee, basically tell him to go away, like just calm down and go away. And Boban pushes him back, and Jordan Johnson pushes him back, and then bloody replay over the. Here's my little tip to all the people who've just started directing basketball this season. And I mean just started because we were on Robotcoms. When people are drawing at each other, we don't need a replay. Let's see the finish of the drawing and then pull the replay in, because it happened in the Plymouth-Bristol game as well. So we don't quite see what happens, but presumably just didn't leave it alone, just kept going back and got a second technical, and he's out of the game. Yeah,
generic point on the replay stuff. In-play replays are, for me, just don't work. I just never have liked them. They don't use them in America. They don't, and they've broadcast more basketball games than anybody can ever imagine. Use your replays for timeouts, maybe before foul shots, something like that, but not after a made basket. I don't like that. I just think that the game is too quick, and you miss too much which is going on at the other end. And obviously we had that in relation to, as you say, in relation to aggro, that's the best bit.
Yeah.
So whatever you do, focus on the aggro. In relation to the incident, Reece is a guy who does talk. I've seen it myself. He talks. He doesn't necessarily talk overtly, but he'll say things out the corner of his mouth. He will draw attention. We remember the European game we talked about, where he made the three with a couple of minutes to go to put them down 8, and was doing this with the crowd, and then the Harris came down the other end and put the game away and shushed them up. So Reece does talk, and I'm quite sure that I didn't go back through the game to spot it, but I'm quite sure there'd been something earlier on in the game which led Harris to, or alternatively, as he was going past, Reece said something out of the corner of his mouth which you couldn't say. I don't know, but Harris wouldn't respond like that if nothing had been going on. And Harris instigated, obviously, an incident with Reece. Reece then throws the ball at Harris. I'm kind of on a slightly different side here. I think that's probably a disqualification. I think that's the equivalent of laying your hands on someone's face.
I would agree with you if he really threw it at him, but it was a little soft, gentle toss.
It was, but the problem is, it's in Harris's mind, that is a significant degree of disrespect. To throw a ball at somebody's play. And also, I don't know this, but I suspect that ever since they've been kids, they've known that one thing you don't do is you throw the ball. You don't throw the ball at the referee. You throw the ball at another player when the ball is dead. You just don't do it. And what Harris is complaining about ad nauseum to the referees is that you see him, he hit me on the ball, he threw the ball. That is what he's saying. And so what's happened is his kind of justice chip in his shoulder has been set off by that, that's something you just don't do. And he expects to be protected from the refs in relation to that, protected by the refs in relation to that. And, every so often when you think something is just not right, that happens to me. I mean, I've done it on the sideline. Christ, I might have even done it in court once or twice. You just say, no, you can just go off. You say, no, that's just not right, and you get overtaken by that, that's just fundamentally wrong. You haven't properly taken into account what he just did, how you say it, egregious. And as I say, it's not in the force, it's in the gesture. So I don't think I had any choice but to throw Harris out, because as you say, Keith gave him two or three warnings that we could see, and clearly he didn't shut up. And at that point, the refs can't do anything else, because you have to deal with the situation. You can't leave that to Leicester. I think, as I say, I'd be interested I don't know the answer whether Reece is lucky or not, to be honest. I don't know if that's a disqualification or not, and there'll be some refs who probably say it is, and maybe some refs who say it isn't, or there may be a lot of refs who say, no, you're absolutely right, Dan, it isn't. It's also shut up, Forrester, and get on with it. There might be, I don't know. I would be surprised if those refs saw him intentionally throwing the ball at an opponent. Let's think. I mean, if he'd lobbed the ball at the ref's head like that, what would the ref have done?
The ref, it's probably a disqualification. So then the question is, why have I drawn a distinction between the ref and a player? It's a good point. I don't know.
So I don't know. So
I just thought that the initial bit looked like tee them both up, shut up and go away. And if he'd shut up and gone away, everybody would have been happy with that.
But of course, the best thing for Glasgow was exactly what happened. because what it did was it lit a fire, I think, under the rest of them. I thought Fraser Malcolm was excellent in this game. And we then have this, fourth quarter, just obliteration.
Yeah.
And I thought at this point, maybe this is where London maybe missed James on the sideline, because we go into the fourth quarter and Glasgow basically make a ton of shots early. London have got no rhythm.
So it was 77-65 going into the fourth quarter, and I went back onto Synergy just to make sure that what I saw was right. They scored on the first 8 possessions of the fourth quarter. There was 1 offensive rebound, so it wasn't first 8 shots, but within that possession in 3 minutes, and they'd gone from 12 down to in the lead. They scored 26 points in 6 minutes to go from 12 down to 7 up.
And that was when the timeout was called.
Yeah.
You see, now that to me is too late. You've got to break that. I mean, the first 2 minutes after that if once a 12-point lead is obliterated in 2.5 minutes, probably before that, because you're trying to project ahead what's going on. You're calling a timeout. You're trying to break their rhythm. You're trying to refocus your players because it's a spiral situation. And didn't do that, and the came and went with kind of different lineups. I'm not sure, John Williams didn't play much in this game. I think he started this game.
He did. I think he played 10 minutes. Yeah.
So I'm not sure precisely where his health was, and I thought Glasgow got confident, and Glasgow had a bit between the teeth, and that was primarily because of what happened with Harris. And as I say, we don't know what's going on the court with all those guys, but we do know that Reece talks. So that can light a fire in a player. And in March, you need something to light a fire. Neither team, that team, Glasgow team, isn't winning the league. They might make the playoffs, maybe not. But that in itself isn't enough. When players are riled by something, that's when the fire is lit, and they become. It's tough to say more motivated, because you should always be motivated. But the reality is, more motivated. Yeah. So they can talk to him as he's walking off the court. They're walking off the court after they've won, because the players want to have the last word.
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
that's the bottom line. So I was surprised that London. I think it was a 19-point run or a 19-point difference in the fourth quarter before they called a timeout.
Yeah.
If you're minus 19, that's too long. And if it's eight non-stops in a row, that is too long. That cannot happen, because the momentum of the game's disappearing from you. And then Glasgow held on, didn't they? And they held on.
They did. Murray hit a 3 with 3.5 minutes to go. That put them up 7. That felt like a dagger, even though it was still 3.5 minutes to go. And then Malcolm hit one with 1:55 to go, which really was, because that was 88-89. They called a timeout there. Out of the timeout, they had a possession, which when missed shot, offensive rebound, and then a turnover, and that was basically it.
But I also thought by the end, there were shades of the kind of the Newcastle Manchester situation at the end, where London didn't foul. The crowd weren't.
That was incredible. There was an 8-point game. There was 50 seconds to go. Reece had pressured the ball, and it was almost a turnover. And then Johnson threw it into the front court, and you didn't see Reece for about 10 seconds as he walked back into camera shot. Kelly saw that, and then he's walking about, and Johnson just sort of wanders into the lane. It almost looked like he was throwing an alley-oop, but he actually just sort of tossed it in. It was incredible. I was like, there's 50 seconds to go.
Yeah, well, they quit on the game. They took the lead. They took the lead from eating pressure, and and you play a bit of offense at the end, and you get some points at the end. But ultimately, the last minute of the game, they quit on it, which was a surprise. But again, it comes from that focus and uncertainty of player selection, uncertainty of coach, and it's not the coach's fault, but it's a factor. That factors in the fact that you've got yet another different individual on the bench, trying to send across his message, and the vacuum of leadership there, and Reece is your best player, so he has to be your leader. The vacuum of leadership there is such that that then permeates everybody else, and you can't, as I say, that's a factor of the circumstance of the club over the past 2 or 3 months, as opposed to the circumstance of any individual within it.
Yeah.
You know.
So 35-15 the fourth quarter was in favour of the Rocks. That's the most the Lions have given up in the fourth quarter since February.
Jordan Johnson as well, mind. I mean,
yeah.
Steve Harris's mate. You know, I mean, he wasn't going to lose that game.
No,
good for him.
So the most Lions have given up since February 2016. Rocks was 6 of 9 from 3-point range in the fourth quarter. Reese led the Lions 20 points, 22 minutes. Kajini had 14. They actually had a number of guys in double figures, but then they did score 92 points. 6 fast break points. I happened to be on Synergy looking at something else, and I noticed that they are the worst team in the league in transition offense. They're the only team below 1 point per possession in transition offense, which I find staggering given the players that they have.
Yes and no. You know, the reality is that if you think about their point guards, Reese and Robinson, they generally lead transit. Point guards lead transition. Reese and Robinson are generally not guys who throw the ball ahead.
Yeah,
you know,
maybe.
they don't throw the ball ahead as much as other point guards in the league, and that's because they like the control. The other thing, of course, is they play games in Europe whereby they didn't get a chance to fast break, so they got into a system where they're used to getting into their sets. It's not about and their defense is, you know, if you talk about, you know, who's going to run, well, Dirk's a one-man fast break.
Yeah.
Dirk's not running, then they don't get that much secondary stuff in transition, because I say that the ball is generally bounced over the halfway line, not thrown.
Yeah. Jordan Johnson, 37 points, 12 of 20 shooting, 37 points, 20 shots, 6 of 12 from behind the arc. Hillsman, 22 and 7. They were 13 of 27, which, given they were torched from the 3-point line when they played Lions at home on TV the other week, probably felt good. Right. Let's.
Sorry, that's the final thing, of course. We can't forget that London destroyed them.
Yeah.
London have that in their heads as well.
Yeah.
So it's that false confidence, that not having that appropriate fear of, well, hang on, what happens when we take something for granted? We're up 20. We beat them by 25 last time.
Yeah.
We're turned eventually.
Yeah. So let's go to Sheffield, where the Sheffield Sharks beat the Newcastle Eagles 73 points to 53. There was no Wes Person for it's your face. I haven't even started yet. No Wes Person for the Eagles. I obviously watched this back because I was doing the Sky game on Friday night. I found this a bit of a tough watch, actually. There was quite a lot of misses. Sheffield edged in front. Yeah.
But Christ, you should have an interest.
But they couldn't. Sheffield looked like they were going to get away, but they couldn't get away because they couldn't make enough shots.
Well, 2 things. I didn't watch this live either. I was at the big one at the arena when we had 12.
Of course, yeah. Shout out to Newcastle for a record-breaking crowd. Roy Birch told me, just randomly told me that it was 1,050 at a game in 1980 something or other, and I said, "Oh, that's going to go this week," and go it did. Good job.
Yeah, well, we had apparently Howard Layton, who was the Eagles match night announcer. The game was between Hemel and the Cleveland somebody or other.
Yeah. No, I asked Roy because Dan Black asked me, who was that game between that you put out on Twitter? So I went and asked Roy because Roy was coaching in the game.
Well, and Howard was there.
Oh, Howard was at the game, was he?
That was actually the game because he was involved with the Cleveland team. So he told us that about 7 times over the mic on Friday night. Anyway, so there's a line of basketball history going. So anyway, so I was at that game, which meant I caught clips of it on my phone of the Sheffield Newcastle game. You're right about a hard watch, dear me. You know, the best summary of it is that Sheffield shot 7 of 25 from 3 and 6 of 15 from the foul line and won by 20. You know, that's I've said things about punch forwards and shooting and all sorts of stuff, and also both teams are on 2 weeks off, and I get that. But then again, there's some other teams who are on 2 weeks off who dropped 100 points, you know, so you have to be a bit careful with that too. I actually thought I thought it was a competitive game, you know, early. I just thought that, and there really wasn't, as you say, there wasn't neither team playing well enough offensively to separate themselves. although as the game went on, Newcastle's shot selection deteriorated rapidly. And there's some staggering numbers in the game in relation to their shot selection and their inability to score the ball, given some of the talent that they have. And they don't have much offensive rebounding either, particularly now Shelton's gone and Gordon is in. Gordon's an offensive rebounder, but he's more situational. He's not someone who's going to camp under there and you know, and turn and get regular second possessions. So they do need to make shots, and you know, I'm afraid they didn't come close. And I thought that was primarily because they didn't move the ball enough. I thought basically once Fletcher passed the basketball, whoever got it was going to shoot it.
Yeah.
And that, you know, in March against proper defenses, against teams you've played multiple times in a difficult gym with the 2 weeks off, you know, there has to be more to it. You have to get some layups. You have to get something. You have to get some open threes as opposed to some of the shots that they shot, which I didn't think were open. So I thought there was primarily poor shot selection, but the game did actually only really turn towards the end of the third quarter.
Yeah. It was a 6-point lead midway through the third quarter, 45-39. Sharks finished the third 11 points to lead 56-41, and then Newcastle just sort of melted away. Really,
I thought
way off the pace. I thought defensively.
Well, I mean, I thought that the game there was 2 threes which Sheffield made at the end towards the end of the third quarter, both on defensive screw-ups by Newcastle, both on simple miscommunications. One at the top of the key for Retino, I think. Williams didn't come out. Williams got stuck on a switch at the bottom and didn't come out. And you leave an open wide. Oh, sorry, he actually helped on a penetration, but it wasn't his help. Retino just popped out, bang, open 3. And then there was another one in the corner where someone helped off the corner in one pass, open 3. And those are mistakes you can't make. You know, eventually you give up 3. Eventually teams are going to convert. And because Newcastle's defense was pretty passive and didn't create any turnovers or didn't create many live ball turnovers, they weren't really able to run. And in the half court, it just degenerated into kind of, as you say, pretty meek. But it's basically, you know, every time some Fletcher passed somebody the ball, they tried to score. You know, Johnson was what, 1 of 12 or 1 of 13.
12, I think it was.
Yeah, something like that. Peel.
I thought Johnson still was playing hard at the end. I'm not sure everybody else was in the.
Yeah, I think he's trying to make plays.
Yeah.
I think he's trying to make plays, but there are issues with their shot. I'm not. Yeah, in relation to playing hard, I tend to agree with you about that. But I think they're too far gone at this point.
Yeah.
You know, having lost that game to Manchester the way they did, having most of those guys playing big minutes as well. I don't think there's any belief in anything that's going on, and it's belief that makes you continue, you know. So yeah, you know, it was as comfortable an average Sheffield win as you could get.
Yeah.
Sheffield weren't great. Sheffield would look at that and think we left a lot of points out there.
Yeah.
And Newcastle would also do that, but you know, there has to be a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know, there has to be a little bit more than there was. And 53 points for a team with all that talent is difficult to
yeah. Well, at one point you were wondering if they were even going to get to 50, weren't you?
I wasn't. I think I stopped watching.
The lowest score by Newcastle / Sunderland since December 1994, 28 years ago, 6th lowest all time in BBL. A 5-0 Sharks sweep against the Eagles this season, their first sweep since 1998-99. And today's klaxon comes courtesy of Philip Brown.
No, it's not like him to be providing you with useful information.
I know. In the 5 games that they played, Sheffield led for 182 minutes and 38 seconds. Eagles led for 10 minutes and 13 seconds, 6.5 of which were in the first cup game. So in the last 4 games between them, Newcastle led for 3 minutes and 40 seconds.
Well, they've had the number, you know, no question. What's slightly more concerning from my perspective is that, you know, Newcastle's coming off a 20-point defeat and getting booed on court against Manchester. well, if you can't make a statement, I mean, I know they're away from home in that game, but if you can't make a statement in those circumstances, when are you going to? We have to, and everybody has to remember it's March now, so all players know that no one else is getting signed.
Yeah.
So they're not really at risk of being released. The mindset is, if you're a player, it's as much about winning games as it is about, where am I going to be playing next year? And if the messages are that they're not going to be playing at Newcastle, well, are you going to be able to get that buy-in for the rest of the season? It sounds ridiculous. It sounds like, oh, well, of course you will, because they're professionals and they're paid to play that way. But there's a difference between playing like you bought in. You can still play hard without necessarily being overly committed to it. And you need the overly committed to it to win things. So yeah, it's tough times for them, and it's getting tougher because they're going to London on Wednesday.
And Leicester at home on Friday.
Yeah, well, it's London on Wednesday. I mean, you're going down. You end up in the M25 at 5 o'clock. It's great fun.
Yeah.
Having had 6 hours on the bus, believe me. All that stuff that people don't see.
That's every week for me. M25 on a Wednesday.
Yeah, there's a reason we choose to live up north.
Johnson 16, 5 of 8 shooting. Rotino 11 and 9. Numbers don't really matter, I don't think. Gordon led with 15. Fletcher 11 and 9, 5 of 14 shooting. Eagles were 22 of 68 and 7 of 25.
Yeah, I think Fletcher wore down a little bit mentally in this game. He started off very well. He started off all over it, and in fact, Glasgow wasn't really effective in this game either. So I think he did his bit. I think Gordon. I'm a bit worried about Gordon. I think Gordon's been a bit subsumed into the kind of the fact that they're losing. I was rather hoping as a supporter that he would be in a position to kind of lift them the way he did his first few games, but that seems to have worn off. And it's like little things. You're about to play a minute and a half at the end of the first quarter, but how come he ends up matched up with Johnson in the last play of the first quarter? Antoine Johnson's the hottest guy in the league. He's 6 man. He's scoring regularly. His job is to get the ball and score. And he's got Yabantu on him with 10 seconds to go, where he's always going to shoot the last shot. Well, Yabantu played reasonable defense, but Johnson's always going to make that shot. That's his shot. And you've got to know that's happening, and you've got to get your best defender on him, not the kid who's coming in to play a minute and a half in the game to release Fletcher. So no, not good.
No. Let's move on to the Sky Sports game. Leicester Riders 87, Bristol Flyers 82. Obviously no Marcus Evans because he was serving his suspension from the disqualification against
about
Plymouth
3 months ago. Yeah, I'm not impressed by that, I'm afraid. I'm sorry. I think there needs to be more transparency about when disqualifications are served and why they're served on certain games, because that was announced 3 weeks ago. I'm not saying, unless they got the benefit of it. I get that. Maybe anybody else got the benefit of it, but
it's the 7 day you get for some reason. I get the 7 days if it's automatic, but it's 7 days from the announcement, which obviously whenever it was announced took out last weekend, and this is the first game after that. So I don't understand. I totally get it. If it's you get disqualified and it's 10 points or whatever the points is nowadays, and you're automatically disqualified, you can say, well, you get 7 days before that kicks in so that they don't miss the second game of a back-to-back or something like that. But I don't understand why it's 7 days after the announcement, when the announcement comes like on a Tuesday or whenever it was.
Well, fundamentally, they should, everybody's disqualified, so everybody is suspended unless an appeal is lodged. That's my understanding of it. I don't think you can.
They're not, no, because you're not automatically suspended anymore.
No, you're not.
No, so it has to go to
everybody to take a look 3 weeks later and say this, that, and the other, and then they give you 7 days to lodge an appeal, and then if you don't lodge it, so that will be why. I still think it's a bit nuts. But anyway, so they're without Evans, and Leicester are basically back to everybody with Walker playing, aren't they?
Yeah. So, but Riders struggled early. Gino had three turnovers. Josh Rogers, who shot the ball really well in the first game of the season at Morningside, picked up where he left off. Again, they're out to a 14-5 lead. Bristol looking good.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult for Leicester because I say it's difficult for Leicester because they actually don't have that much jeopardy anymore. And I know that the coaches will think they have jeopardy all the time, but I don't think necessarily the players do. And certainly Gino's the biggest example of that. I think it was a bit of a watershed moment for us this game because whatever locked in is, he wasn't locked in the first few possessions.
No.
And in relation to Gino, Rob's had a pretty solid and regular substitution pattern over the past 7 or 8 years with his teams, right? And he always used to basically, and I'm talking about like the Neil Watson, Brandon Clark years, that type of thing. They'd come out after 4 minutes, and then Connor would be in, and then they'd come back in at the end of the first quarter, and he'd always end up starting an absolute superstar lanes, but at the beginning of the second quarter against the opposition benches. So he did this NBA kind of 2 substitution in a half thing well before anybody else was. Everybody else was, you run your starters for 7 or 8 minutes and you put your bench and then your starters come back in. But he had everybody in the game earlier in 2 substitutions and it hurt them in the first quarter when they were over rhythm, and it helped them on for the game. And he's changed that for Gino over the last year because basically Gino is playing probably until the 2 or 3 minute mark, and then he's coming back in quite quickly as well. Yeah. And in this game, he took him out the 6 minute mark.
He took him out after 3 minutes.
After 3 minutes, that's what I mean. The 7 minute mark. Sorry, I mean 6 minutes left. Yeah. Right, and that's really encouraging for Leicester because that's a coach who's got potentially the best player in the league, a guy who's given an enormous amount of rope to, right, enormous amount of trust in, right. But he's reached that point with him whereby he's saying, no, no, you've run out of rope today. I'm going to sit you down. Okay. And what's encouraging for Leicester is that Crandall is a smart enough guy to know that in his own head.
Well, I don't know if you saw the halftime of our show, but there was some pictures from that first time out. I think a discussion was had between coach and point guard that might have resulted in point guard not coming back into the game until the second quarter.
Well, good, but that's you can't talk. I didn't see that, but you talk over that. I mean, people think, oh, well, that's all right. That's just what teams do. That's a big thing. Right now, it's easier when you got Connor and Kimber on the bench. Okay, yeah. So don't I'm not going to lionize him to that degree, Rob. But you have to, it's what Popovich said about Tim Duncan, right? You have to be able to coach your best players, and coaching them doesn't just mean listening to them, doesn't mean satiating their every wish on the court. It means also at times making them understand who's in charge. And that's not as easy as it sounds, particularly when, it's like you got a rope, you want to let these guys show their talent. You want to show their talent, but you've got to at some point pull them back in. It's the Trey Moore conundrum. I saw it early on when I was on the bench. I saw it with Fab and Trey. But you'd want Trey would be Trey, but eventually
I would imagine there were a few timeouts where discussions were had between Fab and Trey Moore.
Indeed, yeah. But the big thing is the coach can't be egotistical enough to take it personally.
Yeah,
right? Big thing, right? Because ultimately you need these guys, and the player has to be bought in enough, to not to take the huff.
Yeah.
Right. And if you have that dynamic, right, then you're good. And that's what I say. It was actually a positive thing, but that's happened because I don't, obviously there's a lot going on. Obviously, Gino's a new father, etc. I also think he's already decided that they've won the league, and I'm not saying he's bored with it, but I think he's one of these guys who does need challenges. What I can see to constantly bring out his best. And that's never been Rob's mentality. Rob's the opposite, right? Rob is the, Rob, you've got every game is a threat, every game is a risk. I know that mentality well, believe you me. And so there is so it's the immovable force, the irresistible object, whatever. But the coach has to win the argument. if the coach backs away from the argument, or if the coach doesn't win that argument, then that filters down to the rest of the team.
Yeah.
And that's where cracks come.
Yeah.
So I didn't see that timeout, but sitting him down at that point, to send a message. If you can send a message to your best player, you're good. You get a result. So that was encouraging. That's not to forget anything about Bristol, because to be honest, Bristol started off the game really well. Yeah. It's that Rodgers, Thomas Edwards thing. When those guys are scoring the ball, they become a different team because they have the outside threat. Generally, about Rodgers in particular, it's when he's aggressive and looking to shoot the ball. In the very first game, he comes off the very first possession, he comes off the third screen, squares up, knocks it down. There you go. Right? Yeah. At that point, he is a weapon, because he is 6'8". He's going to get a shot against anybody. He has good fundamentals, and you have to be aware of him. And Bristol are the one team this year who's really played Leicester tough. And the reason they've really played Leicester tough is because they don't back down physically. They play a better defense, both perimeter and internal, than most teams in the league. May even be better than Leicester. And I say that because Bristol turn the ball over so much on offense that it's harder to play a good defense. At least Leicester get to set up the defense every time down because they're so good offensively. And I think that's why they're causing problems. Now, the issue is, just like when Bristol played London, can they continue to score enough to win? Yeah. And particularly without Evans. And they nearly did. Sorry, I've talked a lot about the first half.
Yeah. Well, they were up 14, and Walker then started causing them some problems. Riders had a 12-0 run back to 35-27, and actually Leicester were 3 up at halftime at 46-43. And my mate Alex texted me a good stat. I'll klaxon that as well. I think it was for the first 23 points that Leicester scored, Bristol scored 37, and for the next 23 points that Leicester scored, Bristol scored 6, which I think sort of encompasses Bristol's season, if I'm honest with you, the way they play. Because we'll get to it in the next game. I think it was Rowe texted me in the second quarter about how well they were playing. I said, but they'll stop scoring in a minute, because that's what they do. And then they went 4 minutes without scoring. Yeah. And therein is the problem. Start of the second half, it's still tight. Raphael Thomas Edwards gets his 4th foul right at the beginning, which is a huge blow for them, because he likes playing Leicester, obviously, with his background.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough. It was a foul that was tough. Tough situation. Bad pass.
And he was playing pretty well. But to be fair to the Flyers, they did keep ticking it over, and they were 61-64 up, but they got that foul trouble. Miller then went down we thought it was super serious, but it turned out to be cramp, which is a good thing in that situation, given how he went down.
I think it was a nasty. I think it was a nasty.
Yeah. No, it's easy to say cramp is not a problem for somebody else that's got cramp, but it is better than the alternative of what it looked like when he went down.
Yeah, that's true. He did, and obviously without Miller as well. They really struggled. I think at one point they had the a super-sized lineup with like Jacob at the point guard and Thomas Edwards at the 2, and Samuels and Simmons and Delpesh in the game with Rodgers at the 3. And you're just thinking, wow, they better rebound the ball, because it's plenty, And obviously Jacob has the ability to make tough shots and make plays for himself, which kind of helped them a little bit. But it always kind of felt that the game was going to be a little bit too long for them. A 36-minute game, they might have won.
And Leicester scored the first 9 points of the fourth quarter, got up 6, and you're thinking, here we go, this is Leicester pulling away. But to be fair, they came back and they tied the game up at 70 apiece. Thomas Edwards had come back in. He hit a 3. And then Leicester again looked like we're going to get away. Whelan 3, Adekoya 1. Miller had come in and gone out at that point. But Jacob, we've talked about his ability to make shots. 2 3-pointers. I mean, the second one was a bank on the shot clock buzzer, but they don't draw pictures on the score sheet. With 3.5 minutes to go, it's 76-76.
Yeah, and what I was interested in, again, geekery as it were, was that Bristol probably the only team this year playing that line that have actually made Leicester change, because Loving was on the bench basically the whole of the fourth quarter, virtually all of it. He might have come in near the end, I can't remember. But Adekoya played the 4 with neither Nelson, Henry or Walker at the 5, basically the whole of the fourth quarter. And that was because that does not help Leicester offensively, right? That does help them defensively, particularly when you've got all that size on the court for Bristol. Mm-hmm. So the test is always, and it's always around the 4 position. It's always the 4 position. Is, do you go small with the 4 or do you go big with the 4? Do you copy the opposition or do you challenge them and say, we're going to shoot 3s for 2s? Now, Loving is 6'9", but he's effectively a small 4. Right? Adekoya is 6'7", but he's actually a big 4. He can knock shots down, but he's not the same, not in the same way. He's a physical presence who can defend bigger guys. And that's what they want.
Well.
Yeah, great hands and quickness. Yeah, and the advantage would be it's the Draymond Green thing. You know, if you're 6'6" and you can defend people who are 6'9" with your body strength, you're always going to benefit from the quickness of hands as well, and the quickness of feet. You know, that's why playing small works. So Bristol made Leicester change, and that's probably the first time. You know, the first time I was waiting for him to come back in to see if it was natural rotation, but it wasn't. It was a set decision that they're going to keep going with that lineup. Unless Loving was injured, and obviously in which case I'm talking rubbish. But again, towards the end, 1 possession too many. Jacob made that 3, but that was a Hail Mary shot. And you just felt that Leicester could get what they needed. And the other thing we haven't even mentioned, I've talked about 15 minutes about this game, Patrick Whelan hasn't been mentioned yet, you know. And Patrick Whelan is just playing just lights out basketball. I put it on Twitter. You know, if Patrick Whelan was an American, he'd be right in the middle of the MVP conversation for the whole league.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because you put that out, and I thought, oh, I hadn't even thought about that. But then I think, you know, he's the leading scorer on the best team in the league.
Leading scorer on the best team, shooting 50% from 3, and able to score at the rim, and playing solid defense. It's like, well, hang on a minute. You know, as I say, if he was in, you know, he's out playing some of the Americans around the league, and whilst Leicester are very much a kind of a conglomerate of a team whereby, you know, it's not like last year. It was, you know, we talked at Gino and the Crown Lights. It's not that this year. You know, they're better, they're deeper, and they've shown when Gino's not on or not even playing down there in Glasgow, that they're a very, very talented bunch. You know. So we have to talk about Patrick Whelan. Is at some point going to get basically outside the first 6 weeks of the season when you weren't quite sure how it would fit. He's been incredible. Yeah, he's been... And I'm sorry, just take us to the end of the game because we've talked.
So go on then. So Crandall got down the lane, easy layup, 78-76. Simmons in the corner with the 3, 78-79, and then Crandall came down and made a ridiculous 3 to put Leicester back in front, 81-79 with 2:35 to go. Jacob missed the 3, Crandall turnover. Jacob then in transition, Adekoya fouls him. He hadn't missed a free throw all game. He went 1 for 2 with 1:56 to go to make it 81-80. Then down the other end of the floor, Nelson Henry got a mismatch on Rogers, but he left his hook short. Simmons missed, but jump ball comes back to them. And then key play, really, out of a timeout, Jacob underneath and Nelson Henry with the block.
Yeah, and I didn't see, I thought Leicester got a break there because I didn't see the ball hit Jacob on the way out. So I think Leicester got the ball off that.
It didn't go out.
Oh, right, in that case, I'm talking about the next play down. I'm talking about the next play down. Sorry, my fault. Lots of games.
Because actually what they got is Whelan on a fast break and on the outlet pass, and he made 2 free throws. He got fouled and made 2 3 throws.
Right, well, I don't remember that at all, sorry.
There you go.
I was watching it at midnight on Friday, so that's probably why.
So Jacob misses the 3.
Yeah,
his offensive rebound and a heads up play because he could easily have shot that from where, I mean, he might have made it, but he gave it to Delpesh underneath, who makes it a 1-point game with 56 seconds to go.
That's right. I remember that.
And then at the other end, Leicester get again exactly what they want. Nelson Henry from Crandall, great pump fake, but Simmons stayed with it and did enough to put Nelson Henry off, and he misses.
Yeah, and that's the thing with size, you see. Nelson Henry is a remarkable scorer over guys. who are kind of either the same size as him or slightly smaller than him. The one thing that troubles him, because he's not a guy who uses a quickness to get around people. He goes over people with his footwork, or he goes around people with his footwork. But that's harder to do when you're just dealing with a little bit extra size. So Simmons' size, I think, troubled him a little bit over the course of the game. He's not like no more Walker, who's just going to put his shoulder down, and get closer. Then he's more skilled than that, or a different level. A different type of skill. So I understand why that happened. And then at this point, Bristol came down the court.
Yeah, this is the one you were just talking about. Jacob drives to the basket, blocked by Adekoya. It's given off Jacob, so it's the Leicester ball with 17 seconds to go.
Yeah, I watched that back, and I have to say I didn't see anything. I didn't see it coming off Jacob, and Jacob didn't see it coming off Jacob because he was immediately pointing over. That's what players do.
Yeah.
So I think Leicester caught a little bit of a break there, but ultimately Bristol had plenty of chances to score down the stretch, and
they did, and they didn't take them. And then Thomas Edwards didn't want to commit the foul because he was on 4, so that allowed 7 seconds to go off the clock. So it's down to 11.2 seconds, by 11.6 seconds by the time they commit the foul.
It is becoming a massive bugbear of mine this year. Actually, a really massive bugbear of mine is players who are left on the court on 4 fouls in fouling situations. Your assistants have to be on that bench and have to be saying, get him. He's got 4, and it's not
particularly as it's an end line ball, so there's a break in play.
Break in play. You've got to know who you've got to know who's in foul trouble at the end, and particularly not so much Thomas Edwards, to be fair, but particularly when it's the guards who are your shot makers and your shot producers, and it's happening more and more regularly, and it's just not something that seems to be coming into coaches' kind of wheelhouses in relation to what they're thinking of, and that type of thing can make a big difference.
So Nelson Henry goes to the free throw line, got a very nice pounce on the first one. The second one was clean. It's a 3-point game. 11.6 seconds to go. Timeout, advanced the ball, got it in pretty easily.
Yeah,
we should note that. Jacob gets it. He goes the opposite way to the screen. You got a little bit of room, and then he pump faked it. And I couldn't quite work out why he pump faked it, because then Crandall recovers. You're in a situation where he's the only guy on the court that's going to be shooting the ball. You know that now because of the time, and he's got to shoot a 3. Yeah,
and he's picked the ball up.
So
he has no option. And Gino,
it's a great play by Gino, but it was made. His ability to block that shot went right up at the point at which he head fakes it.
He declined to press his advantage. He had an advantage. He declined to take it. He hesitated on his advantage,
and then he got a massive disadvantage.
Which meant that basically, as he went up, he'd lost his dribble. A pump fake wasn't going to work at that point, and not going to work with Crandall. Crandall's too smart for that. And Crandall has the athleticism from 2 feet. Probably one of the few guys in the league, certainly one of the few guards in the league, who has the athleticism of 2 feet to jump at the same time as Jacob and get his hand on the basketball by going straight up, So no, it was a great defensive play, but it wasn't. But that's not really Jacob's game. Miller's not in the game because I think we missed out earlier. He came back on and then fell over again. He gave up 2 points that way, which didn't help him either.
No.
Miller's not in the game. Evans isn't there. Samuels can't really be in the game at that point. So it's all on Jacob and his shot creation. And, and that's harsh on him because it's not his main skill set. His main skill set is catching, driving, being athletic. And then if someone's not pushing up on him, draining the 3, he wouldn't be the one that's had the ball in his hands to create a shot if Andreas had the choice.
So Gino blocks it. Leicester breakaway. I don't know how that's not an unsportsmanlike foul, but it doesn't matter. No. Jackson makes 2 free throws. 87-82. The final, Patrick Whelan, 23 points, 11 of 11 from the free throw line. He was a +10 in a 5-point win in 36 minutes. So the 4 minutes he was off court, they lost by 5. Walker, 12 and 6 off 6 for 9 shooting. Crandall, 11 and 5, 7 turnovers, had a 9 index rating. That actually, I was talking about them being the top 3. That actually dropped him down to 4th. I think he then got back up into it. I'm not sure. Jacob, 17 points, 3 of 10 shooting, I've got 3 of 10 and 4 of 15. That can't be right, or I'm confused as to what that is. 5 turnovers. Miller, 14 points, 6 of 18 shooting, 7 rebounds, 8 assists. Delpesh, 6 of 9 for 13 points. And Thomas Edwards also efficient for his 12.
Yeah.
Let's stay with Leicester and move on to Saturday down at the Sports Park, where the Surrey Scorchers were beaten 76-102. And this is one of those games you think, Surrey at home in that gym where it can be hard to shoot at times, short turnaround because it's a 6 o'clock tip off. You know, maybe Leicester come out a bit sluggish and Surrey get on top of them, and you never know, sort of thing. Whelan comes out, hits some threes. Walker comes off the bench, beats them up inside. They're 22-12 up after 6.5 minutes. And, you know, any thoughts of those sorts of problems?
I mean, it did happen, as you said, for about a minute and a half. Because, you know, I think Surrey went 4 up or 6 up.
Yeah.
Really made a couple of layups. But I actually don't really subscribe to the theory that you kind of threw out there through bits of it, through actually quite fruitful experience. You know, we played a lot of games home Friday night and away Saturday in the BBL, and I was around. And the first half of the Saturday game was always the best you played. Always. You know, the Friday night game is kind of the warm-up game. The Saturday night game, everyone's played the night before. You're in rhythm. You've had your shots. You're feeling good about yourself. Your legs are still feeling good. And, you know, you win the game in the first half and you just hold on in the second half, as it were. Leicester less worried about fatigue because of the bodies they've got on the bench, particularly the guards. You know, McKenzie and Washington are playing like 15 minutes a game, and both could comfortably play twice as much. You know, so for them, 30 minutes or 35 minutes over a weekend is not a difficult situation at all. Whelan would probably play a game every night at the moment if he could. Let's be honest, he's playing like that, you know. So I didn't see that, and the best way I thought of describing this game after, as you say, the first initial skirmish was kind of routine.
Very.
Unfortunately, you have to be able to stop Leicester in some way. Bristol were able to do that with their physicality. Surrey just didn't have that physicality. They still have those players. They still have, you know, all those players, but they don't defend the 3-point shot very well and not overly committed to it. No, Leicester are a historically good 3-point shooting team. You know, if you go back, and the number, you probably have the numbers, probably get them at the end of the season. But, you know, last time I looked, like they were shooting like 43% as a team.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
you know, that is crazy. I don't know how far back we can go to find out when the last time any team shot 43% from the 3-point line. But that tells you that they've good.
I can go all the way back to 87 and check it.
Yeah,
I'll have a look.
So they got good shooters, and good. That means they've got good passes as well, because they're giving up good shots to get great shots. And when those good shooters get confident, you know, and you know, when Loving is stepping back and shooting the ball, when Whelan is stepping into his 3-point shot, you know it's going in. And I don't think Surrey did.
No. 19 up after 13 minutes, and I don't think there's any reason to carry on talking about this one, to be honest with you. Davis, 23 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists, 6 of 9 shooting, 11 of 12 from the foul line. Teo, Ogundengbe, and Des Ringer had 11 each. Whelan, 24 points, so that's 47 points on the weekend. 9 of 12 shooting, 6 of 9 from 3-point range. Mo Walker, 20 points and 8 rebounds in 20 minutes, and McKenzie, 13 points, 3 of 3 shooting. That's an impressive return.
He's also possibly the best guy in the league in last 5-second situations, McKenzie. You know, if it was this game or the other game, he made a layup with less than 5 seconds on the clock off a dead ball. You know, he goes coast to coast. You give him the basketball, he makes plays. In the last 5 or 6 seconds, and it's happened too often now to be a fluke.
I'm going to look it up. Synergy has the last 4 seconds stat.
So that, I mean, well, that's kind of not so much as kind of long offenses where they're holding the ball.
Yeah.
You know, where they're going coast to coast in like 5-6 seconds. It's always him.
Yeah.
You know, and that would be on my scouting report. You know, it would be like, you know, we're denying him because he has that little bit of quickness, whereas everybody else is worried about their own man. He has that mentality to get to the rim. I think he's been in that situation before by the looks of it in teams he's played for.
Yeah. So let's go to Bristol. The Flyers lost 74-77 to the London Lions. Evans obviously back after his suspension, and they scored the first 10 points of the game, and sort of talked about it earlier. You know, at some point that will wear off. It wasn't actually until the second quarter that it did wear off, when Lions went 13-4 to make it a 1-point game.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things in this game. London, obviously, you know, I feel a little bit for Kelly. You know, he seems to be kind of the whipping boy a little bit. They went down 10-0 and he was subbed. He was off after 2.5 minutes. It's difficult when you're 7 foot because you are reliant on everything else that's going on around you. And also fans kind of think, oh, you're 7 foot, you should be like Shaq, you should be averaging 25 and 15 every game and all. And it's not quite that simple, you know? So anyway, he came out of the game, London eventually in this game looked like they developed just a little bit of stick-to-itiveness, just a little bit of camaraderie, which had been missing. I think it was to do with the personnel that they employed during the game, which changed a lot. Bristol ran out of steam, you know, but Bristol started off, as you say, great, but they couldn't hold on.
No, third quarter, Rodgers 5 points, got it back out to 10, but by the end of the third quarter, it was down to 1. Rodgers, they were saying on commentary, might have dislocated his thumb.
Didn't look good, did it?
Didn't look good, but he did come back in after that.
And the other thing about this was, you know, that they lost, sorry, excuse me, one call, pardon me. No, the other thing about this was that London lost the first 3 minutes of each half by 10. You know, that's 20 points they gave up when they weren't ready to come out of the locker room. You know, which always makes you kind of worry about a team's focus. And it was actually playing some of the other guys, particularly Tawia, who was unburied on the bench. You know, that was a big thing. He gave them a lot. Kaboza helped them a little bit with his energy, and Kajini eventually got going, you know, and all of those things helped them just kind of wear Bristol down. And like all of Bristol's games in that gym, it comes to the last 5 minutes.
Yeah. And they're 68-61 up with Jacob hitting shots and Simmons scoring. And then I think you put a tweet out about Bristol last 4 minutes, and it played out exactly like that. And 2 minutes to go, 2 minutes later, they're down a point when Tawia jammed it in 72-73.
There must be, you know, there must be a more lucrative way of kind of managing this foresight, you know, than putting tweets out telling people what's going to happen. Yeah, it was unfortunate, but you know, I've actually just went and watched the last 3 minutes of the game back, because it was a game that Bristol lost probably as opposed to London winning. You know, Reece made a nice play to Tawia for a dunk, which put London at 1. Yeah, and from that moment on, you know, I think Bristol shot maybe, I think it was all Evans. Evans missed 2 layups, one of which was an air ball. Yeah, he missed 3 layups, 2 of which were air balls. He missed a 3-point shot. And off one of those 3-point shots, London got a run out for Kajini. Yeah, without anybody in the backcourt. Yeah. And they just kind of all ended up standing around, you know, and hoping that Evans would make a play to bail them out. Yeah. And he wasn't able to. So you've got to 1:33 to go, 1:17 to go. Reece fouls Evans, who makes 2 free throws, 74-75. Delpesh blocked Martin. There's 8 seconds on the shot clock. End line ball. Flyers steal the ball. I thought Evans took another terrible shot. Lions got the ball back with 36 seconds to go. Reece, they set the screen too high. So he was right up by the halfway line. He ends up standing on the halfway line. Well, what Reece said to Tawia, and it was something that I mentioned earlier on this season, Davis said to, I think, Robertson in one of the Guildford games, he said, wait, just wait. Yeah. Tawia came, he's saying, wait, I don't need you there. Just wait until I come and I'll set the screen for you. So Reece stepped on the line, which wasn't bright. But they got themselves in a situation.
There's 22 seconds to go at that point. But because it's a backcourt violation, you get the possession in the front court. So therefore, they've only got 14 on the shot clock. So they can't tick it all the way down, but they ran some clock. Evans drives to the basket, and you've got to make that layup.
Oh, God, yeah. You missed a couple before that. I mean, London kind of was part of the ways it was Red Sea. And, he just missed. Just missed. And he's the one who didn't play the night before, so really no excuse for him on legs. And London got the rebound, and then there was four fouls.
Yeah, they had no fouls committed in the quarter, and they lost 3 seconds on the second foul, another 3 seconds on the third foul.
Yeah, so and by
the time Justin goes to the line, there's 4 seconds left. He makes them both, and Jacob shot on the buzzer. He wanted a foul, but he didn't get it. I didn't think it was foul. What did you think?
I watched it back very carefully just before we did this podcast. 2 things. One, I'm frustrated that we let Justin catch the ball. You can put the second guy on Justin. Put the guy who's on the inbounds. As soon as Justin comes off, stop him catching the ball. Make somebody else catch it. On that play on Jacob, I actually watched it out of interest because I tend to believe when a player is that far short and is doing that, that suggests to me that the player is, my initial thought is that's an immediate reaction, then there might be something in it. And you can't see on the video, certainly Caboza doesn't foul him, but the way he also dribbles into Martin's man. And Martin is up close as well, and you can't see whether he's on the wrist. But what you can also see on the video, which I thought was instructive, was not one of the referees has a view of the play. As you go back, you'll see that the trail referee next to the table is obstructed by Zach Simmons, who is right in the way. The referee on the near side towards us is obstructed by Caboza, who is defending the play from that side. And the referee on the baseline has Shane Walker 3 feet away from him. There's just no way any ref can make that play. Now, the refs are in the right positions on a technical basis, so you can't necessarily criticize them for that. Albeit, I think I'd probably like to see the sideline refs step in a little bit when you know where the play is going to be. So they could, and also it demonstrated kind of the lack of spacing that Bristol had in their offense, But if he was fouled, he was fouled, but there's no way any of the ref could make the call because he couldn't see.
Yeah. So Evans had 16 points, 6 of 20. Jacob had 16.6 of 16. Simmons had 14 points. They were 30 of 84 field goal shooting. They were 8 for 30 from 3-point range. They were 6 of 12 from the free throw line. They lost by 3.
Yeah.
Reece had 16 and 7. Robinson had 15. Martin had 13. 43 points. 43 of their 77 points came off the bench for the Lions. So
they needed that, mind. They were joining Newcastle in the headlong plummet, which is one step after a spiral. And they kind of averted the plummet at the last minute and kind of found a deeper diving pool. So that was a massive win for them. And we'll see whether it was a facade or whether it was generally a new starting point for them on Wednesday night.
So Sunday, I've just noticed, by the way, daylight savings times has totally cost me because I've sat here and I've not turned the light on and I'm getting darker and darker. So I'm going to start this one off for the people watching on YouTube before I fade to black. Then I'm going to run over there and turn the light on and come back in a sort of stealth way that nobody will notice. Full disclosure. So Glasgow rocks 100. People on the podcast are going, what the hell is he talking about? Glasgow rocks 100. Manchester Giants 99. Dan Clark was back. Now, obviously, Sunday, the reason we didn't do this on Sunday was because I was driving a minibus to Edinburgh and back. And obviously, these are 12, sort of 15, 16-year-old aspiring basketball players. So I did what you should do for any aspiring basketball player, stopped off at the service station so they could get Kentucky Fried Chicken and managed to watch watch the last 3 minutes of this game in real time. And I've gone back and sort of watched the last 5 minutes again this evening. So I'm going to, while I run over and do the lights, tee you up. Didn't seem to be too much in this game, a score or two until just before half time between them.
Go. Yes, yeah. There wasn't. In fact, I was a little bit frustrated with this game. A little bit frustrated because these teams have seen each other a lot, and I would have expected Manchester to do a better job of Manchester don't defend well on the road. Let's be honest. They've given up a lot of points on the road this year, and I don't think anybody defended anybody for about 36 minutes of this game. And if you actually watch the last 4 minutes, the defense is palpably different to what had gone on for the rest of the game. Almost to the point where it seemed almost like an NBA game, where the energy really perked up in kind of winning time, as it were. And that frustrated me from Manchester's perspective, because I think at this point they've got the bodies, they've got the energy. They should be better than that. And like Gardner said afterwards, we gave it 100 points on the road. And he's right, he gave it 100 points. And as a coach, Glasgow can say, oh yeah, we won, but Gareth Murray will be saying we gave up 99 points, It's a flip of the coin. And I would hope that,
Have they got too many players? There's 12 players in the first half, too many. 12 guys going on court.
Is that 12 guys from Manchester?
Yeah.
Well, that is probably too many players. But then again, the coach is looking for a bit of energy.
Yeah.
You see, the one thing, the more players you have, the lower scoring the game should be.
Yeah.
Because
we have the defense for 2 minutes.
Because your defense should be absolutely locked in, and the energy should be high, albeit your offensive rhythm might struggle. And it wasn't that. It was a typical Glasgow home game that we've seen all this year, whereby scoring races. So that disappointed me from Manchester's perspective. But it was a good game to watch, albeit a game that I'd seen about 4 times before.
So as we've seen it before, let's get to the end of it. Giants were still up 6 early, and they had a 9-0 run just before halftime to take the lead. They were still up 6 early in the fourth. Fraser Malcolm hit a couple of threes. He went 1 for 3 from the line, ties the game at 87. 3 minutes to go. Giants lead 93-96, and this is the point at which you were just talking about, where actually the scoring suddenly slowed, because 93, 96 in 37 minutes, and then it's 7-3 to finish off. First one actually was Johnson had an easy score, to be fair, and then Anderson missed one he should have scored. Kieran's exclamation that he'd missed it was quite amusing. And Boban then gets foul, goes 1 for 2, 96. And it really was about who could get an easy score here, because they didn't seemingly have much in the half court if they weren't getting to the basket.
No, I mean, what happened was, firstly, Harris made a good play, and then they got off in transition for Jack Domi. And at that point, I think it was maybe 98, 96, Jack Domi made a left-handed layup. And then, this is the kind of thing. 2:11 to go. And then, Glasgow, just the defense, it just kills me, because McKnight is left wide open. Yeah, but he's wide
like a little
open.
Shovel pass from the
but he's wide open because Harris has got caught on with his head turned. Murray has sank lower, I think, to deal with to bump a cutter on the roll. It was probably Ulf who was rolling, and Murray's gone down to bump him. In that situation, Harris is left between 2 players, one in the corner and one on the wing. And Harris has to go to the guy on the wing and then let Murray recover out to the corner. And Harris just stands there. And it's McKnight. So McKnight is the one player that you can't turn your head on. You have to know where he is at court the whole time. And watching that kind of... It was a great shot for Manchester, but my heart sank for basketball, It's 96, 96. There's 2 minutes to go in the game, right? And that's why it's 96, 96, because that's about the most basic defensive mistake, the most painful defensive mistake you can do. If there was one shot, you would say, don't give up. It would either be a dunk for Ulf or an open 3 for McKnight.
Yeah.
And the open three is worth more than the dunk.
Yeah.
So that was brutal. And then the teams basically traded misses.
Yeah, they
There's a
did.
little bit more defensive energy, but they traded misses.
Yeah, Jack Domney had one go
all the way around,
and round and out. Armstrong had a mismatch on Jack Domney, and he settled
back
for
and took a three.
Yeah, I couldn't quite work that.
He has made the line between confidence and overconfidence is about that. And because their shots he's been making, he liked that one back, I think.
There was almost a turnover, and then Jamal got a deflection, and then there's a long discussion as to whether that was a backcourt or not. In the end, they gave Rocks the ball. Harris with a great spin.
I don't know why. I watched that back, and I watched it at the time and thought, no. I watched it live. That's not half court. I watched it back. Certainly, there was initial deflection he got. The only question is whether he kind of knocked it on again over the halfway line. I didn't think he did. I just don't know how you can say that Manchester had possession of the ball in the front court before it went into the back court. But nevertheless, it didn't change the game, fortunately.
Harris spin misses the layup. Whelan drive seemed to be open, and I don't know if he got caught between shooting at the basket and shooting at the backboard, but he sort of threw it over, massively overshot it. Giants got the rebound, but there's only 6 on the shot clock because he hasn't hit the ring. And then McKnight is wide open again, has seemingly all day to shoot and misses.
Yeah, got lucky. Glasgow got lucky. Bottom line, and that's why that's why they run. It's a scoring race. Generally, home teams win because home teams make those shots in the scoring race when it's close. They got lucky, which gave them the ball with 26 seconds to go.
It's something like that. The clock on the screen wasn't right, but on the basis that Murray was shooting at the end of the shot clock and there was 2 seconds left when he went to the free throw line, it must have been 25, 26 seconds left on the clock. They got the ball.
And at this point, Manchester have actually picked up the day. It was interesting that Ulf was in the game. It wasn't Lewis, it wasn't Clark, it was Ulf. And the coach trusted him, and I thought his defense was better than anybody's because he got out and he pressured the ball, he moved his feet, he was more active. And he was the one who nearly broke up this possession. Yeah,
he knocked it loose, and they were really scrambling then because then Johnson got it back. They had 2 guys on him. He just about managed to get a pass.
The second guy on Johnson was Ulf as well. He was out there on that as well. He managed to loft a long floaty pass to Murray. Just Whelan made a bad mistake.
Well, Whelan was under the basket virtually. He was well into the key, and he saw Murray wide open. He went running out at him, dived out at him, and he didn't catch him with the body or on the arm. No, he actually landed his foot on Gareth Murray's foot.
Heel, I think, yeah.
Yeah, and I watched it because when I was watching on my phone in the I was in Burger King, obviously. I didn't go to KFC.
Of course not.
I was like, I'm not sure that's a foul. I had a look and I was like, not sure. So I've watched it back again, and because I rewound it a couple of times, I saw he didn't get him on the body, he got him on the foot, and then I wondered, actually, is that a shooting foul if his foot's on the floor, or has he landed and therefore it's an after the? Now I assume they must have been over the limit, so it would have been 2 free throws anyway.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because
the thing was, it was literally as his foot hit the ground. So
this rule is not necessarily changed, but the interpretations of it have changed over the years. And the rule was always, once the shooting motion is complete, is the moment that your foot hits the floor, the shot is complete. Yeah. Difficulty is then this interpretation of taking away the shooter's right to land. Right. So on that definition, anybody who comes underneath a shooter and puts their foot there and they land on their foot, that isn't going to be a shooting foul. Because if you say, well, he's landed on his foot, he's landed on the floor, the shot is over, it's not a foul. So I think it probably has to be a shooting foul. I'm not sure that's the right kind of.
Again, it was just one of those things. I thought
that's a good question.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels like it was a shooting foul. But
and he did get him, and he's got to be smarter than that in relation to that, because he's never going to block that shot. He might change it, whatever. And Gareth does the right thing. He knocks down 2 foul shots and
missed the third.
And and at that, I think that's smart. The reason it's smart is because you're up by You're only up by 2. You're only up by 2 if you
make it.
So then 2 with them a chance to call a timeout and shoot a 3. You're better off being
Lloyd
up by
called
1.
the timeout before the shot as well. So I wonder whether he thought he's going to miss the third one. So this is what we're going to do on a live play, because obviously
I don't think you can ever draw that up really, because you don't know whether who's going to rebound the ball.
No.
And you just got to get down the court and it's a Hail Mary, and just hope. I think he just tried to ice Gareth. I don't think that was. I'm not sure that was the smartest thing, to be honest. I think.
Well, particularly when he's just hurt his foot, because his foot's just been landing.
Because at one point I was thinking to myself, has Johnny Bunyan missed a foul shot this season?
Yeah.
Because if you've got an injury, Gareth, you go sit on the bench and get a guy who's missed about 2 foul shots in 6 years. To bring in. I thought, is he going to do that? And he's a player coach, lead from the front. He did the right thing. But it did cross my mind, and it would have crossed my mind if I was on the bench. It's like, Fab, come here, get off. You can imagine.
So Anderson from the halfway line, it's from the commentary, it sounded like it was close, but they didn't spin the camera.
No, we didn't see it.
For some reason, I've only written down the Glasgow scorers, so I'll give you those. Johnson, 25 and 12. Harris, 20. Murray, 18. Hillsman, Harris, and Johnson, by the way, 30 for 32 from the free throw line. Each 3 of them made 10.
And 62 points over the weekend for Jordan Johnson as well.
Yeah.
He's rounding into some form of Empire form, and 200-point games for Glasgow. So we certainly know where their strength lies, don't we?
Yeah. So final game of the day, and I couldn't bring myself to watch this, but you did say you only really need to see the first 2.5 minutes. So I thought I will watch the first. I went to 3 minutes. Because I like to go above and beyond for our listeners and viewers. Cheshire Phoenix 113, Surrey Scorchers 66, and there was an element of it that you thought, oh, again, this. No, there wasn't. I'm messing. This was a massive schedule loss for Surrey on the back of a double header with a team that's got the trophy to come out and go, "Hey, we've just won! Look how great we are." This was a nailed-on home win, but I didn't think it'd be quite by this many points at all. But so I watched the first few minutes, and I'll just put what I put down. Miss, Austin to the basket, turnover, right wide open at the foul line, turnover, Teddy wide open for 3, 7-0, 118, timeout gone. Turnover. Good it was, because come out of the timeout, turnover, Austin draws the foul, 2 free throws, turnover, missed steal, but a missed dunk, Bradley in transition 3, 12-0. And you're like, you're kidding me. They've barely shot the ball and they're 12 points down.
Yeah, and that's what I meant. It was a brutal watch. The thing you say about Cheshire like to celebrate their trophies. They really do. I mean, I can go back to the Northgate in about 2004 when they won one of them. And they were playing, I think, the Eagles in the next game. And obviously, I was down there as a card-carrying member of the UTA. Out of Toon Army, for those who don't know. Shout out to Les and Stu. It was a really close game down at Northgate, like there already was. And then halfway, in the gap in the third quarter, some bloke just came on with the trophy, just walked on the court, and walked around the court, and the whole crowd, whatever it was all that. As he's walked, I don't know who it was. It was some member of the backroom staff or something. Just walked around the court with the trophy. So we ended up playing them down there about 6 weeks later, and we thought we would reciprocate. So we went and bought a vase, and at the end of the third quarter, I think one of our number just wandered onto the court and turned around to the Eagles fans and held up the vase. It was a different time. But anyway, they do like to celebrate, and quite right too. You got to celebrate. Exactly. The trophy and the cup are good like that because you celebrate them in season. It's a different type of thing. And Surrey were just not ready to play. I mean, the missed 3 from Theo wasn't a good shot, and then the 3 further turnovers were even worse. And then what you didn't see, actually, 8.5 minutes in, because I watched the whole first quarter for our loyal fans. 8.5 minutes in, the first, I think, 5 for 5 sub this year.
Oh, wow.
5 on, 5 off.
Wow.
The whole 4 or 5 of them, I think at this point they were down like maybe 23, 27, 12, something like that. Yeah. Three on sub them all, put 5 on, and left poor Henry Wilkins as the 11th man. It didn't. Kaelin made a 3, but it didn't really get much better.
There was a 12-0 start to the game. There was another 12-0 run early in the third quarter. It was 42-19.
What I will say is that Stanley Davis hurt his ankle with about a minute and a half to go in the first half. Didn't play in the second half, so he's probably that one bit of creativity, and ability to score. So I don't think that would have helped him in the second half either. But 113. I mean, come on. Yeah, no, it's not, 113 is a number you put up against an ABL team.
Yeah.
Not sorry team. Not a ABL team.
Yeah. Wright 23, Bradley 22, Dickerson 21, Austin 28 and 5 and 10 steals. 4 guys in 20. Yeah, 4 guys in 20s. I didn't get a chance to look up when the last.
I will say about all those turnovers. I mean, Austin may have got 10 steals, but I'll tell you, it was about 3 of those turnovers were because he was in the passing lane and he wasn't letting them throw the ball to the wing.
Yeah.
He's just blocking. He does change a lot of things defensively.
Ringer with 12. Jules Dangakodo had 11, 9 turnovers. I assume that's related to the.
That's what happened when you've got Austin in the passing lanes. Yeah.
34-2 in points off turnovers, 23-2 in second chance points.
34-2. Oh,
so let's draw a line under that for the sake of the Surrey fans who might still be listening. And let's have a look at the league table.
Before you do that, before you do that, I'm afraid we've negligently failed to mention the refereeing catastrophe in the Bristol game.
Oh, okay, go on then.
The Bristol v London game. I'm sorry, I missed me. The Bristol v Leicester game.
Yeah.
Leicester v Bristol. No, Leicester v Surrey.
Yeah.
Leicester v Surrey game, where the Surrey player went up to tip a foul shot off the rim and got called for interference with 2 points, which I'm afraid is just not from my perspective.
No. So I've extensively read the rules during that game because I tweeted out that at first I thought it might be a technical if you're going to give a thing, but I got confused because I made that mistake that we all make from time to time and went for goaltending rather than basket interference, and it wasn't goaltending, it was basket interference. Goaltending is deflecting a shot before it's hit the ring. Basket interference is happen afterwards. So if a player goaltends a free throw, i.e. they run into the lane and block it before it hits the ring, that is a point and a technical foul. If a player basket interferences the free throw, it's 1 point and no further punishment. So the debate you and I had was...
If a player tips the ball through the rim, defensive player, it's 2 points because it's on offensive rebound.
Yes, exactly. If the player tips it into the basket, then it's 2 points. The debate you and I had was whether it was basket interference. I thought it was because I thought it was, quote, in the basket, i.e. not touching the ring, but in the cylinder of the basket. And you felt it wasn't.
Well, I think the cylinder is used in American sport, used in the NBA as different rules as being the line up from the basket.
Yeah. So when I say in the cylinder, I mean in the actual ring going to fall in.
I think in the rule for that,
the rule says within the basket. It doesn't say half the ball, it just says within the basket.
I think the interpretation is that the widest part of the ball has to be below the level of the rim, which makes it very difficult, I think, to goaltend it out anyway from above. But nevertheless, either way, it was
only 1 point. All I will say is my correction was liked by a current BBL referee, which suggested he might have agreed with my second attempt at it.
Yeah, that's fine. The only what frustrates me about it a little bit though is we have these massive refereeing conferences about whether the ball went off A or off B, which lane it's going to go to, right? Whose ball is on the inbounds, that type of thing. Yeah, there's a fundamental issue of a rule right? Which, yeah, it's like when I complained at Newcastle when the wrong guy shot the foul shot, and then they let him shoot another one, and they shouldn't have, right?
Yeah.
It's a bit, this isn't stuff about whether you're a good ref or not. I'm sorry, it's just stuff about, the basic stuff that the coaches don't know, that the players don't know, that you have to know as a ref. I can't find any defense for you for that. You have to know that as a ref, and if you don't know, the problem with that is those of and the Leicester guys were on the bench giving it. That's 2 points.
Yeah, they were.
They had no clue. They thought that was they thought that was the most they could get away with. And and it frustrates me that you've got eight. You've got 8 officials there, or 7 officials there. You've got table officials. You've got the ref. Nobody comes and says, just get that straight again. Why is that? Why is that? Well, how is that right? How can that logically be? Are you sure? There's no coming together. It's almost like, one ref said he's made that call. It's his call. It's nothing to do with me. I'll let you make that call. And the problem is that casts doubt, for those of us in the know, that casts doubt on the competence of everything else. And those refs may be really good and they may have a great game. If you get something that is fundamental to the
but we haven't spent 3 minutes talking about the great calls that they made, have we?
Exactly, yeah. And they might have been right, but the doubt of the credibility gap, like if you go to the fish and chip shop and you see one green chip, you're not going to be as keen to believe the rest of them are nice. There might be. I mean, no, I'll tell you, I've tried them all. I did still eat them, obviously, but so that frustrates me. Guys, I know you're undertrained, I know you're underpaid, I know you're under resourced, and I get all of that stuff. But reading the rule book, and I tweeted you straight away about it when I saw it. It's like, how is that 2 points? Reading the rule book is the one thing you should be better at than everybody else. And whenever anybody like me comes on a smart ass podcast and says this is wrong, you should be able to turn around and say, no, it's not. You're wrong because I'm the ref and I know better. Sorry. And it's not the guy who makes a call. It's all of them. It's all of them who are responsible. Don't throw the young guy under the bus. Sorry. So, anyway,
let's go and have a look at the table on the way out. Leicester are 2 games away. Oh, the thing I didn't mention, by the way, which was on my Twitter feed, if you follow me, you would have seen it, was the first result, the Surrey defeat to Leicester, put out the chances of Bristol or Sheffield catching Leicester mathematically. So and then the Manchester defeat put Manchester out of mathematically being able to catch Leicester. So it is a 2-horse race between Leicester and London. Leicester are 19 and 2. London are 10 and 7. So basically, Leicester need 2 more wins or 2 more Lions loss or 1 losses or 1 of each. And the earliest the title could come is this Friday.
1 win against London.
Or 1 win against London, yes, indeed. So
I do listen to you. It is computing.
So if London lose to either Newcastle or Bristol on Wednesday and Friday, then Leicester would win the league if they beat Newcastle. Alternatively, if Leicester lose to Newcastle, but London also lose to Newcastle and Bristol, then Leicester would win the league. After that, it would go to Sunday, where London are at Sheffield, or Wednesday, where both of them play next week. Leicester are at Plymouth and London play Bristol.
Let me speak for the whole BBL supporting world when I say how utterly anticlimactic.
Yes.
Sadly, that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. When one team is so demonstrably better than the rest over the course of the season, that's going to happen.
Yes, it is, and you might get to see it on Friday night.
I don't think I think I will, because I'm avoiding COVID now because I'm off to America in 10 days. So,
are you? Okay.
So I have to avoid it. So I'm on COVID.
I don't know if I'm breaking secrets, but it might be live on Sky on Friday night.
Well, that'd be wonderful, because to be honest, there's nothing I'd more like than watch Leicester pick up the league in London, in Newcastle.
Yes.
It would warm the cockles of my heart.
I'm sure it would.
The last time it happened, unfortunately, I've got my excuse in extraordinarily early. The last time, I think Mersey won the league. When the year Mersey won the league.
London won the league in Newcastle. At the
but they did. I don't think they beat us to win. They won the league in Newcastle, but they did that. they weren't beating Newcastle to win the league, as it were. Whereas, obviously, Leicester aren't either. I get that.
Yeah.
Mersey. So that's when the only thing I was involved. Mersey
yeah,
won the Sports Central in a game that actually mattered.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
So Leicester are 19-2 and 2 games away, as we were saying. Manchester are in second with 12-9 as their record. Sheffield have 2 games in hand on those teams. They are 11-8. Cheshire are fourth currently. They've played 22 and won 11 and lost 11, and a nice symmetric 7-4, 4-7 home away record. London are 10-7. In fifth, yes. Then there's Plymouth, who've played 21, won 9 and 12. Bristol 8-9. Newcastle 8 and 11, and then Glasgow, who've just suddenly rocketed back into playoff contention.
Oh, I like what you did there. Rocketed, very good.
Oh, I didn't even deliberately do it. Just random.
No, I figured. Yeah.
They are 8 and 12, so they are the same wins as Bristol and Newcastle, the same losses as Plymouth, and only 1 loss behind Newcastle and Cheshire. So right back in the mix. And then Surrey, not mathematically out of it yet, but there are a couple of losses away from being mathematically out of it at 2 and 17. So I mean, we have 2 super consistent teams who are going to finish 1st and 10th, and then we have a mass still that we're not 100% sure in the order that any of them are going to. I mean, you could convince me that Newcastle were going to miss the playoffs, and you could convince me that Newcastle were going to finish 3rd or something. You know what I mean? It's.
Yeah, I mean, we've still got a third of the season left, haven't we?
Yeah.
The reality of it, even though it's late in the season, most teams have got a third of the games left. So it really depends on what momentum you're carrying into the last third, because the last third of the season gets played in a month, less than a month, and that's why, managing to stay together and battle through and have a focus and have a goal is more important actually than the X's and O's at this point in time. And Manchester appear to have kind of got through that, so they've got their group back together, so they'll be comfortable. Glasgow have figured out a way to keep, a way to win, albeit they might just win enough home games to squeak in.
I think their next 3 are at home.
Yeah, so they got a real chance. And
I think they play Newcastle right at the end of the season as well, which could be.
Newcastle played Plymouth last game as well.
Yeah.
Then you have Newcastle and Bristol and Plymouth, who are, really also right in that mix. We forget about Plymouth because they haven't played for 3 weeks.
They haven't played for 2 weeks, so
they're going to come back after their break.
They were obviously on that.
They were on their hump.
But has the break helped or hurt them? We'll find out.
Exactly. Did they get back on it? And there's still a couple of tests to go. As I say, do Newcastle come out with a bit of pride and actually, they got Leicester on, London and Leicester. They're either 8, they could be 8 and 13. And if they're 8 and 13, then at that point they're the favourites for 9th. On Thursday, on Wednesday and Friday coming. So wait and see. All fun and games. And I have to say the battle for 8th is the battle to get walloped by Leicester, but even so, it's still quite late to get in the playoffs.
Yeah. It's better than getting 9.
Yeah. If you get the gate receipts,
yeah.
2 games, yeah.
Absolutely. Right. Well, I do have a game next Sunday, but I'm pretty sure it's a 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock tip off. So I'll be home in time and we'll be back to normal on Sunday night breakdown on a Sunday night. And
they've been spoiled, though, let's be honest. They've been spoiled.
Yeah. So we will park it there and have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next Sunday night. Goodbye.